Welcome, everyone. I'm Council Vice President Mary Lupian. Our president is running a little bit late and he'll be joining us soon, but this is the May agenda review where Council goes through the May legislation items and asks any questions. Those questions will be then asked of administration and answers returned to us in writing on Tuesday night or Wednesday. And so I'll turn it over to our Chief of Staff to go through the legislation items and we'll begin asking questions.
Awesome. I know there's nowhere anyone would rather be than right here, right now in this beautiful sunny Rochester afternoon. So let's get into this. The first is finance introductory number 146, establishing $15,000 as maximum compensation for an agreement with Bella Events Group LLC for the return and the production of the 2022 Rock Pride Festival.
I'll just say I am so excited that this is coming back. It has been a long 2 years.
Okay. Yes, and you are going to see a trend here, Vice President Lupian, with a lot of events coming back. We're going to have a string of them here right in a row. Because if there's no questions on that, the next is finance introductory number 147, establishing $15,000 as maximum compensation for an agreement with Rock Park Jam LLC. Principal Reginald Walton for the production of the 2022 Rock Jam Live music series.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is meant by low cost? What would that mean? What does that equate to?
So
is that the dollar amount, attached to that?
It means that there is a cost for admission, but it would be a lower cost event, like admission in the $1, $2, $3 range typically. But we can get an answer for exactly what the price of admission
Yeah, I'd like to know what the target low cost is. Is it going to be $5 or $10? That type of thing.
Yeah. Any other questions on this? The next item is finance introductory number 148, establishing $30,000 as maximum compensation for an agreement with Young Explosives to provide fireworks displays, particularly the July 4th fireworks display, and then also possibly a smaller scale show if there is programming to support that.
Yay.
I know this is not related, but maybe a little bit. So can we ask about the drone show and if that's going to come back this year?
Yep.
I did, and it's not. They might try to bring it back as a separate event in the summer still, but it's not going to be the same day as it was last year.
Can I ask what the reason was? Just thinking about, how people really like that and people with animals, especially who struggle with the fireworks. So just curious about why, if there was a reason.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think it's certainly something you can put in agenda review.
Ask that question. Sure.
Yes, thank you, James.
Yep, you're welcome. Are there any other questions on fireworks? If not, we'll go to introductory number 149, establishing $50,000 as maximum compensation for an agreement with Rochester Youth Sports Foundation to produce the Gus Macker 3-on-3 basketball tournament. Another great event coming back.
I just have a comment. This is like one of my favorite events. And I'll tell you that every year since I've been county ledge, I've sponsored a team or two from the community. And it's awesome way to get young people engaged into something positive. So just wanted to encourage that of my colleagues to consider participating or going to see the event.
And I would interject, just from my time doing special events, that Dries worked really hard to get this in Rochester. For years there was a Gus Macker in Buffalo and not here. And also an individual, Tony Jordan, deserves a lot of credit for making this happen. And then it's wonderful it's coming back after COVID, because it is a very big deal.
And I'm going to do my Dallas Cowboy plug, because he's a Dallas Cowboy former NFL player. So I'm a fan.
Are there any other questions on the Gus Macker? Hearing none, we'll do finance introductory number 150, establishing $50,000 as maximum compensation for an agreement with the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra for music performances. This is somewhat unique and new. The RPO will present a full orchestra concert at Parcel 5 in this coming summer, and it will be free. Any questions? Introductory number 151 is another return. It establishes $80,000 as maximum compensation for an agreement with the Puerto Rican Festival Incorporated for sponsorship of the 2022 Puerto Rican Festival.
Yay. Where will it be this year? Is it going to be at the same location as last year?
It says it'll be returning to Frontier Field VIP parking lot. Yep, it'll be back at Frontier Field.
Oh,
It's
okay.
been for quite a while.
I missed that. I'm sorry. It's right in the transmittal. I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. Sorry.
Can we get a breakdown of how the money will be allocated?
I think we can ask that. Communications does get a report from the folks who do get funding. So we can ask for that and Joanne can provide it, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the Puerto Rican Festival?
I do have a question. Maybe, this is probably not the time, but maybe we need to also figure out what to do about, some of the things surrounding the events and how we handle the public safety issues, so we can make sure that people are safe. And then also do like what we did last year, where we had our community partners step in, to help out with that instead of using more of the police.
I think in the past, council has had a briefing on specifically the plan related to the Puerto Rican Festival, but more importantly, the Sunday, I believe, afterward. So I think that's something, if council wanted that, we could make a request, Katie, to have the Rochester Police Department provide that.
And it got one more question is, did they add another day or was it always 3 days? I thought it was just 2 days.
It's usually been 3, but the big change here and the big change that we worked on years ago that finally is going to come to fruition is moving it from Thursday to Saturday instead of Friday to Sunday.
Got it. Thank you.
Which hopefully is going to also address some of the earlier questions that you asked, Councilmember Harris, but I'll obviously let communications answer that. And I know that President Melendez has been very involved with this.
Okay, thank you. That's good.
Any other questions on the Puerto Rican Festival? Okay, so we'll move on to finance introductory number 152. A local improvement ordinance authorizing special district tax assessments for 6 neighborhood parking lots. They are located at Lyle Avenue, Monroe and Oxford, Woodside and Goodwill, Culver Merchants, North Street, and Mount Hope.
I have a question. There is an assessment district apparently for the Wadsworth Square parking lot, but taxes haven't been assessed. Extra taxes haven't been assessed on it in a long time. My question is, does the neighborhood having that special assessment district set up give them more say if the city were to ever sell the parking lot?
Okay. We'll find that out. Any other questions on introductory 152? That will go to introductory 153. Legislation to enhance the community's racial and structural equity or race initiatives as follows. Authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with Monroe County, amending the 21-22 budget of the city of Rochester, and amending the professional services agreement between the city and Cedar Grove. Questions? Okay, if there's no questions, we'll go to finance introductory number 154, establishing $374,425 as total maximum compensation for an agreement with OpenGov to provide a budget preparation and budget book software solution.
Is this something new this year?
Yeah. So a little background, the budget is really produced, believe it or not, using kind of Microsoft Word and Excel. It's not a real dynamic thing. It's hard sometimes for them to manipulate and move, especially with changes. And so this is really going to take things to a whole, like to the modern times, if you will, and allow for budget to have a much more dynamic system to do budgeting. So I think sometimes with questions that council asks for comparisons and going back, this will start making that easier going forward. And it'll really, I think it'll be a great tool for the city.
And it looks like it has more accessible, it makes it more accessible to the public as well, right?
It should. That should- but we can-
Interactive dashboard, yeah,
We can
that
ask.
looks awesome.
Yeah.
That's one of the things they were emphasizing in our finance meeting, Mary.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Lupian, that they're quite excited about that.
Yeah, and they'll do a a work session for us and walk us through a modeling of it as soon as they can. But this is huge for our ability to make the budget come to life for people.
Did they purchase all the features with this software? Or is there additional features that that could be, amended to it?
We'll look into that. Are there any more questions on number 154? If not, we'll go to introductory 155, which is confirming the reappointments of Tashonda D. Thomas and Andrew W. Dimick to the Civil Service Commission. Okay, there's no questions on, we'll move to number 156. This is authorizing the refunding of outstanding bonds of the city of Rochester.
Can we have a work session on this piece of legislation?
On council member on this, or would you like something on like the broader, like bonding and the kind of that whole genre of finance?
Yeah, I'm open to that too. And specific, also, some intricate focus on refunding bonds. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Are there any other questions on 156? So that brings us to introductory 157. Authorizing the apportionment of taxes and charges for 34 properties. Are there any questions on 157?
So the attachment wasn't legible. Just wondering if that could be resent in a way that's more legible.
It was sent electronically specifically for that reason, because it is, if you look for an email from Josanne, probably on Tuesday. They were saying right up front, you're not going to be able to see this unless you look at it electronically, because it's so tiny.
Thank you.
We can track it down to and resend it.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. Any more questions on 157? If not, we'll go to introduction number 158, authorizing an agreement with independent title agency for the continued provision of real estate title services. This agreement's for $250,000 per year. Any questions on the title services agreement? If not, we'll go to introductory 159, authorizing a professional services agreement with the law offices of Polano and Farrell to provide outside counsel conflict representation for any matter or proceeding in which the law department has a conflict of interest, and the maximum amount of this would be $25,000.
So the no RFP explanation wasn't attached. And wondering, they gave the example of conflict with police disciplinary hearings. So I'm wondering what conflicts are being anticipated for this year, and if whether last year they also had the same services with the same organization, and if they did, what conflicts arose and what services did they provide to address those? Like which groups had conflicts and what was covered by their services for those conflicts?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm sure we can get that information, and more importantly too, we can definitely get you and get everyone a copy of the justification. Well, I'm not sure why that was attached. It must have dropped off for some reason. Any more questions on number 159? If not, we'll go to finance introductory number 178, authorizing an agreement with Rochester Genesee Regional Transportation Authority for refueling of city vehicles at the RGRTA facility on East Main. Any questions?
They said something about, I guess in the transmittal, something about the rate, or there was what they charge as a surcharge or administrative charge, but what would the cost be per gallon? Or does that fluctuate?
I can tell you that does fluctuate.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yep.
Is it the company that owns Hickey Freeman that's doing this, or is it another company that's purchasing the property, redeveloping it, and then
That's the next one.
back out to Hickey Freeman? I'm sorry, jump ahead.
So sorry,
Yeah,
Dr.
sorry.
you jumped ahead.
I jumped ahead too. They're not labeled.
Ah,
Okay. So we'll move on from number 178, introductory 179.
thanks for
James,
asking my
sorry.
question.
Sorry, James. I just want to let everyone know that the no RFP was sent out as an info and amendment. We had to wait for an MWBE signature. So you did receive it in an email, but I know it's difficult because there was a lot of tweeners and a lot of no RFPs.
Okay, great. Thanks, Josanna. And
Yeah.
Councilmember Martin, we'll tease that out and send it to you again, just so it's easier for you to get access to it instead of having to comb through everything else.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So then we'll move to finance introductory number 179, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with the County of Monroe to continue to provide chilled water services for air conditioning at the Blue Cross Arena. Any questions on this item? If not, we'll go to. Yeah,
I do, but it's kind of like a overall, I would love to have a work session on how the Blue Cross Arena and the city, how are we doing this business? I don't fully understand how this dynamic actually works. I know they run it, I just don't understand how we benefit, how they benefit. I'd love to see some type of work session for that if possible.
okay, we'll work on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything more on the chilled water agreement with the county? If not, we'll go to introductory numbers 181 and 182, certifying certain calculations related to the apportionment of property taxes between the homestead and non-homestead assessment classes. This is required by state real property tax law.
This was a tweener.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I just sent the tweeners out at like 4:15 all in one email.
Light blue dot.
At some point, Hazel, you got to explain the dots to me, but yes, it's the light blue dot.
Just that it's late and they're different colors,
Oh, okay. That works.
so you don't get them mixed up.
So these are going to be for purchase.
It looks like this is a calculation required by state law for establishing the property tax levy and how much of that levy is allocated between homestead and non-homestead.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm sorry. Thank you.
So from reading that reads that we're going to have an increase in the homestead tax rate of 0.11%. So we should expect that homes taxes are going to increase by that much approximately. Is that correct?
My answer would be yes, but we can certainly get more information on that.
And this is required every year to recalculate?
we'll get an answer to that.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions on these two items? If
I
not,
have,
go
sorry,
ahead.
it's not really on the legislation because I'm fearful of the new tax amounts on the new assessed values of the home. So maybe what are we as a city going to do about maybe curbing the dramatic increase in the values of the homes to help people not have such a drastic increase in taxes, property taxes?
We can get a breakdown of how those real property tax rates work in relation to the tax levy and also the tax rate and how that apportionment takes place and what that would look like to individual and average homeowners, particularly those who have had property increases. I'm sure that Mike Zazara, Josanne would be able to provide that information.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
There's no more questions on that introductory. We'll move to introductory number 160 in neighborhood and business development legislation related to the Taylor Square redevelopment project, a mixed-use mixed income project, authorizing a $2.3 million construction permanent loan agreement, and also authorizing the mayor to execute such agreements, authorizing the mayor to adjust the interest rate, and also authorizing the director of finance to adjust the interest rate.
Can you unpack this or have the administration try to unpack this a little bit better? I'm kind of confused, just as Councilmember Peo had mentioned, who owns it, and then I see the 1% construction loan. Who's the holder of the construction loan?
Agreed.
We can get some
I
clarity
think
that home leasing, it is a project of home leasing, but we can get some more clarity.
Thank you.
Yes. I echo Councilmember Harris's sentiments and would not feel comfortable voting for this without a work session. I did see that some other council members had met and discussed this development, but I just want to have all the information and get a better understanding since I'm new and haven't heard much about it.
It would be helpful for me, and I agree with Councilmember Martin about, if we could get a work session or get something before it's put out. But I'd like to know, what is our commitment? What is the city council's or the city's total commitment to this? It's kind of hard to determine financial commitment.
Okay,
Thank you.
there's no other questions on that item. We'll move to
I have
introductory.
I have a few questions on it, James.
Sure, Mitch. Go right ahead, Mitch.
Question about, I guess I'll just phrase it as, what is going to be the impact to the streetscape
That's a good one.
on North Clinton itself? Second question is around how they plan to create, what the plan is to create appropriate senior housing. I guess I'll actually rephrase that. What are the amenities that are going to be specifically targeted for older adults? And the third question that I want to ask is around historic preservation. So just what are the impacts of this project to, or how are they planning on integrating historic preservation principles into this project?
Great. Are there any other questions on introductory number 160?
I don't have a question. I wanted to state, I do like that we're doing a 1% interest rate as opposed to a discount on taxes, unless we're doing the discount on taxes. Maybe that's the question. Are we doing discount on taxes as well? Because I do like to see a very low interest rate versus a discount on property taxes.
We'll get the administration to clarify that. And are there
I
any
think-
other questions? Oh, go ahead.
I think this is going to be a great project. I mean, this could be potentially a good project. I'm just very interested to learn more about it. That's all. Because Hickey Freeman's has been a staple in that community, and they're a good employer as well, from what I was told.
I just want to make a quick statement to my colleagues here that pending timeline, if we can't get a work session in, I do encourage everyone to reach out to Home Leasing directly. I've had a chance to meet with them too. So I just want to make that statement. We'll work to see if we can figure something out, but I just want to encourage you to also reach out.
Thank you. I got one more question about this. I was wondering, would this project increase the amount of people they're employing after it's completed?
Are there any other questions on this introductory? Okay. We'll move then to introduction number 161, amend the 2021-2022 budget of NBD by $1 million for the housing rehabilitation program.
Can I ask how will this be marketed, or in how do, will they plan to, are they going to use the same process that was used in the past, or will there be changes?
And could we get a list of the homes or the areas some of these housing rehabilitation funds have gone to, just to try to understand what kinds of repairs are being made, and even if possible, community feedback on how the program helped, to better understand, whether it's something we should in the future consider allocating more funds to.
Are there any other questions?
I guess just that I saw Councilmember Patterson saying that he'd like to see these houses be passive and energy efficient. I would echo that, and just wondering what's the possibility of that, either passive housing or air source heat pumps.
We'll work to get answers to those questions. Are there any other questions? If not, we'll go to introductory 162, amending the 21-22 NBD budget by $1 million for the owner occupant roof program.
That's awesome. And will they maintain the same process for people to apply, or are they planning to change it?
And I'd also ask the same question as I did with the last one.
I want to piggyback off of Councilmember Lachey and see if we're finally going to have a digital application system.
Ah, yes. Great idea.
Okay. If there's no other questions, we'll go to introductory number 163, amending the 21-22 annual action plan for the receipt and use of a one-time award of $8.982+ million. Also authorizing the submission of the home ARP allocation plan, authorizing agreements with HUD for the receipt and use of grants to fund the home ARP allocation plan.
I see Councilmember Patterson sent in or asked for a list of folks that was involved in the agency, so I got that list. Is there any way that we can get maybe a list of the responses that was, the information that was collected during the survey?
And Councilmember Harris, you were saying that you did receive the list of organizations, right?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you kindly.
Oh, yes. It was sent out this afternoon for those of you who haven't seen it yet.
Okay, we'll work on getting that other list as well. Are there any other questions on this introductory item? If not, we'll go to introductory number 180. Legislation related to the first phase of the Buy the Block program, authorizing the sale of 24 vacant parcels.
Yes. Many of our programs to encourage home ownership, allow the sale of the home after 10 years, at which point it can be sold for full market value, thus taking a affordable home out of neighborhoods. And they can become rental housing after 30 years. And so I really urge the administration to look at permanent affordability for the houses that we're subsidizing. And if they can respond, whether that's a land trust or some other way to provide for permanent affordability, I'd like to hear if they have any ideas around that.
Any other questions on the Buy the Block?
Will we be having a work session on this?
Guys, how many days are in a month?
I work more than full time. Let's keep it rolling.
We do have a quarterly update with NBD on May 19th.
That's after we vote, though.
There's one Thursday before you vote.
James, I'm gonna have a couple of questions, but I haven't been able to do the full dive into this since it was a tweener, so I'll get them for you by, how about midnight tonight?
Sure. I mean, I'm answering for Josanne. I don't know what she's going to say to that, but we're certainly open to that.
Nope, that's no problem.
She likes midnight tonight better than.
Yeah, right.
I'll call you, Josanne, as soon as I get them.
Yeah, right.
But clearly, it sounds like we do need to get into some more of the issues related to these different programs in NBD. So if we can get as much information to everybody before voting or if we can schedule the work sessions, obviously, to get some of this information too, we'll do that. But I think at the least, we need to have a robust talk about what we want to see in the quarterly NBD update. And because it sounds like there's a lot of information that you guys want to get from, and related to NBD.
Yes, in case we don't, my question from last month, when the mayor said that we'll have a meeting about this, how are the taxes going to be on this? Are they going to be based on $350,000? Or going to be based on how much they purchased the home for? And then how long are those taxes going to be in effect? When you build a home out, the first year taxes are only based on the land properties, not on the house properties. So, and then when they sell the home, is there anything, a second lien, a soft lien on it if they were to try and sell it within the 10 years?
I'm wondering if it's the same requirement as the Home Rochester, where you can sell it within 10 years, but it has to be to another income qualified buyer.
What they said in the MBD meeting is that some of those fine tuning rules hadn't been worked out yet, and they will have them all worked out, of course, before the house is sold. But some of those things, they have other models to look to from other programs, but they haven't finalized their decisions.
And who's going to hold the mortgage? Who are the payments going towards?
Dana said that he has already talked with ESL and that they'll be talking with other major banks. And that Councilmember Patterson offered to connect Dana with NACA as another possibility. So they would be the mortgage holders.
Work to get answers to those questions and potentially have a work session. Are there any more questions on that introductory item? If there are not, we'll move to Parks and Public Works. Introductory number 164, legislation related to the North Goodman Street Reconstruction Project, appropriating $215,000 in anticipated reimbursement from Monroe County and establishing $629,000 as maximum compensation for T.Y. Lin, the engineering and architecture firm. Any questions on North Goodman Street?
Yeah, just one question. I guess I'll frame it like this. When, you know what? I take it back. I will figure out the way that I'm going to email you anyways, James. So I'll figure out how I want to frame it and I'll send it then.
Awesome. Thanks. Any other questions?
This is introductory. Which number again?
164. It's the North Goodman
Okay.
Street Reconstruction Project from Bay Street to Clifford Avenue.
Thank you.
There are no more questions on that. We'll move to introduction number 165. Legislation establishing $60,000 as maximum compensation for an agreement with CNS Engineers for the St. Bernard's Trail Rehabilitation Project. Any questions? Okay, if there's no questions, we'll move to introductory numbers 166 and 167. Legislation related to the 2022 annual parking garage repair and reconstruction project that authorizes the issuance of bonds totaling $211,000 and also amends ordinance 2021-154 to eliminate reference to a singular year and replace it with the term annual.
I have a question. I know that this has been asked in the past, what's the plan for city-owned garages? Are they making enough revenue to cover the cost even? I know, or is there a plan to see that they do that since we're approaching the end of the pandemic? What kind of burden are we expecting to have with these garages, with the repairs in the future? Are we able to sustain that?
We can ask to get information about the garage plan going forward. And they are not self-sufficient. They do not support themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, I think last year we allocated 5 million to the parking garages. Just lost revenue parking.
Right. And
COVID.
yeah.
Are there any other questions? Now we'll do introduction number 168, legislation authorizing professional service term agreements with the following companies for environmental assessment, investigation, and remedial services. They're Barton and LeJudas, Bergman Associates, Day Environmental, Fisher Associates, Labella Associates, the Leroux Group, Lou Engineers, and Stantec. Any questions on this item? If not, we'll go to introductory numbers 169 and 170. And this is related to the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation Green Innovation Grant Program. It authorizes the mayor to enter an agreement with New York State EFC It authorizes the receipt and use of $335,000 in anticipated reimbursements from EFC. And it approves a resolution in a form that is required by the state to confirm the city's acceptance of the grant.
How many meters is this? And is it exclusively city-owned property? City-owned facilities, I should say.
2,977 meters.
Aha. That I see that. Thank you.
I asked
you-
the same question. That's how I knew. But
Can you
it's
just
in
keep, well, Jose, do you know, is it only city-owned facilities?
that I don't.
I'm curious if like this counts like the school district as an example, where there's some kind of, it's a little nebulous around whose properties those really are. If you could just ask that question, that'd be great, James.
We will do. Any other questions about the water meters? If not, we'll go to introductory number 171, legislation approving the 2022-23 budget of the Downtown Enhancement District.
Miguel, this is not the forming bid. This is the old bid. Is that right?
Let me take a quick look again. Yeah, I think this is the old bid, but we should ask.
So can you ask the question, James, of what the timeline and process is to transition
Right.
This bid to the newly forming one?
Mitch, Brian Liberty did in the meeting that we had with with DES say that this is annual. If that helps.
Right, but it's going to be annual when the new bid is formed too. So I just want to understand what the kind of transition period is.
Right, and this definitely is the old, it's the enhancement district, not the business improvement district. So we can find out what the transition is with the bid and you know, what that whole process will look like. Are there any other questions on the business enhancement district? If not, we'll do introduction number 172, legislation authorizing the care and embellishment of streetscapes during the 22-23 and the assessment of the associated costs of $30,000 among the benefited properties. Questions?
By Lachey, I see your notes in the comments. Lachey's dropping a few questions in the comments, James. She has to go.
Okay, awesome. Okay, duly noted, and we'll move on to the Public Safety Committee, introductory number 173. This is the issuance of $1.3 million in bonds to buy 30 new Dodge Charger police cars. Any questions on number 173?
Would you like me to read Lachey's question from the chat now, James, or do you want to hold off on that?
Sure, you can just convey them to Josanne so we can be sure we get answers for her, but I defer to the president.
Yeah, I think we can read them into the record. They're two simple questions.
So this is for this item 173. She asks if we can consider purchasing hybrid units. She knows that Ford makes one. And she says, imagine the savings on gas and carbon footprint.
I'd like to just add to that question. Why are we not buying electric vehicles?
I echo that.
echo that also. I know in Brighton, all their new vehicles are hybrid. I do have a question. Why isn't this a part of the police department budget? Why is this, additional funding outside of their budget?
Find out an answer to that.
Also, a cost comparison with other models, $43,000 for one vehicle is really expensive. So really trying to understand why this specific vehicle, I know they're not allowed to, do high-speed chases in the city. So why a sports car in this make and model?
I feel like Teslas aren't that much more expensive. Is the reason that it's not in the budget have to do that it's a capital expense? Do capital expenses, is that part of a department's budget?
They're separate.
It would be, my answer would have been that it's a capital purchase and I've never seen it included in their budget, but I think we'd be better to get a breakdown from budget and finance on that. And I'm not suggesting that the vehicles are cheaper, that they're expensive, but it does include equipment. So we probably should get a breakdown of, what are the $43,000 of things like the cage and other equipment that's put into the car, like radios and other things. So we'll have to look into that. Or I shouldn't say radios, but like sirens and lights and all of that stuff.
Than 5 years with over 100,000 miles on them, especially people who live in the city and drive around the city. So aside for that justification, I'm trying to understand what other reason they would need these vehicles. Yeah, I'm just struggling to understand the justification for the need and how that would make our community safer.
Are there any other questions on the police cars? If not, we'll move to introduction number 174 that is being pulled at the request of the administration. So then that would,
Sorry, what 174 is being pulled?
174 is being pulled, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And then 183 is legislation related to appropriate the receipt and use of $5 million from the American Rescue Plan for the Rochester Peace Collective, which was just recently announced.
I know that we're getting an update on violence prevention on May 11th. I didn't get to hear the press conference, but I am trying to get clarity on all the different pieces. So the Peace Collective is what I thought ONS was going to do. And so what's my question? Is ONS now synonymous with Advanced Peace, or is the Peace Fellowship underneath ONS as well, the Office of Neighborhood Safety?
So in the press conference, Advanced Peace wasn't mentioned at all. So would really like an update on Advanced Peace. Some of the topics that were brought up would be what a program like Advanced Peace would have covered. So where is that program? Where does it fit into all of this? Would also like a breakdown on how exactly $5 million will be allocated. Are there a certain amount of programs that fit into certain categories we'll be doing outreach for? And how will the impact be measured? I think this is very well intended, but throwing money at an issue without really studying the outcomes or impacts is a mistake we've seen happen, and I'd like us to think about that when implementing this.
If
I
I'm
do
un-
have a work session coming up, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, Council
No,
Vice
you're fine.
President. Okay. And because I've been working a little bit with Victor on this, I do know that there will be several ordinances and advanced piece as part of that. But they wanted to allocate the money first, and then over the next few months, there will be several different transmittals coming that will show the program, show the outcomes, but they wanted to do their due diligence on that and not just throw it out there right away, because there is a lot of work to be done at the back end with this.
if I'm understanding it correctly, is this because okay, so my understanding of the model of the Office of Neighborhood Safety is that it resourced and funded community organizations that are already doing the work. And maybe I misread it, but that's what I thought that the Peacemaker or the Peace Collective was. And so if that's true, I'm interested, and again, I know that we have our work session on the 11th, but I'm interested in criteria that they would be using to select those community organizations.
Mm-hmm. Yes, my understanding is they will be using them, and there are smaller organizations that they'll be utilizing as well, and folks to work with youth. One of the problems is a lot of them are not 501c3s registered with the state, but they're great organizations doing great things. They're just small. So we have to find a way, a pass through and someone that can take on some of this so that we can actually utilize some of the people on the street doing work that don't necessarily have a 501c3.
Yeah, to jump in on that really quick, I've had many conversations with the mayor about this one, and certainly, all the questions that have been asked should be answered and are valid. I think the nuance here is that we're approving the resources now, the allocation now, but everything else should be coming back before council for further approval. So there'll be other projects and programs that we should be seeing in the next couple months. We wanted to get the allocation put together so that it'll be easier to then start to allocate internal resources for certain things, and get the ball rolling. But then really this idea of engaging community, grassroots, and other organizations that are already doing the work, there's going to be some work that needs to be done to pull that together.
Okay. Are there any more questions on this introductory item? If not, that'll bring us to Recreation and Human Services, introductory number 175, which is legislation authorizing an agreement with the Hillman Group to install, maintain, and operate a self-service quick tag engraving kiosk at the city's Animal Services Center. Sort of like the machines you see at PetSmart and other stores. Are there any questions on this? If not, we'll go to introductory 176, which is authorizing maximum total compensation of $49,525 with Kidney Architects to develop Rochester's Animal Services Master Plan. There's no questions on that.
Yeah, James, this doesn't seem to indicate, it doesn't talk about a new shelter. It talks about a construction projects, but I'm wondering if a new shelter is still something the administration is considering. Certainly it was something the last administration was considering.
Yes, Councilmember Gruber, a new one is still on the table. They wanted to get this first because they don't know if maybe a building that's already someplace that can be reconfigured, or if they would have to build new. It's all going to be cost dependent, but that's still on the table.
So will you just frame the question then? Will this study include the option of building a new facility? Thank you.
Yep. All Are there any other questions? If not, we'll go to introduction number 177, amending the existing contract with the Synthesis Collaborative for the design and installation of murals at the Rock City Skate Park.
I don't have a question pertaining to 177, just a process question pertaining to mural arts and arts in general. What is our internal processes for evaluating and considering artists for proposals related to work with the city of Rochester?
Do we have any other questions? If not, we've gotten through the entire agenda for the upcoming meeting.
Great. Well, thanks, everyone. Another one in the books.
Thanks.